Hello, everybody. It's me, your good friend Sparky, and I'm a little late to the party on this one, aren't I? At this point, it's not new news anymore that Nintendo has announced the gradual closure of the Wii U and 3DS eShops over the course of 2022, going into 2023. Of course, everybody has talked about it at this point, everybody has voiced their opinions on it at this point, and I held off on doing that because I feel like it's a situation that you can react too quickly to. If you let your initial impressions and emotions get in the way of things, then it can kind of skew your opinion on the matter, and you can miss crucial details that can sort of, change the way you think about the situation. And now that I've sat on the situation for a while, I feel like I've gotten a more structured outlook on the situation, and I wanted to share that with people. The situation with the 3DS and Wii U eShops getting shut down is what I call an inevitable tragedy. This was going to happen. It's just a matter of when it was going to happen, and when is now. Having a digital storefront for your console is a great thing, right? You get easy access to a lot of really fun games, and you don't have to bother going to the store or waiting in a checkout line or things like that. And in a reality where things like pandemics are something to worry about when you're going out in public, having digital access to really awesome things is even more important than ever. But over time, these things start to suffer. As part of the modern structure of gaming, where more and more of it is going online with subscription services and digital downloads and day one patches, you start to run into problems as systems get older. The fact of the matter is that things like this cost money to maintain, and over time, as something becomes less popular, it becomes less important for companies to maintain them. We saw it happen with the Wii, we saw it happen with the DSi, we saw it start to happen with the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita, though that got backtracked on. It has been a decade since the Wii U came out. It has been over a decade since the 3DS came out. 10 years is a long time for any given game company to support a single system like this. And to put it in an even more jarring perspective, the Nintendo Switch has been out for 5 years. It launched in 2017. It is 2022. Oh my god, where has time gone? The Wii U and 3DS are more or less 5 years past their expiration date at this point. And the fact that Nintendo has kept things going for as long as they have been, especially in the case of the Wii U where it wasn't a very successful system to begin with, I'd say that's pretty generous of them. But in the 5 years that the Switch has launched, maintaining the online environments for the Wii U and 3DS has probably become more and more costly than it's actually worth. You have server costs to consider, you have security measures to consider. People's credit card information can be stored on a 3DS or a Wii U. At this point, it probably costs more money to maintain the Wii U and 3DS eShops than they actually make off of the services in any given time frame. And it would be the same sort of situation with any game company. Eventually, servers and online services have to go down. Though when you look at the broader picture, that's probably not the thing that most people are upset over. They are upset over the fact that several digital games and such are going to be going down with the eShop. Lots of content that we have had access to for over a decade is going to vanish. As far as physical games are considered, you can still go to a used game store or go on eBay and find 3DS carts and Wii U discs. That's not really a problem. But exclusive digital content, exclusive games, even in some cases update patches to fix game-breaking bugs, are stored on these eShops. The biggest problem that people have with Nintendo in this situation are their stances on game preservation. Meaning that they don't really do that. Nintendo is unfortunately not the best company when it comes to preserving their games. Sometimes their systems have backwards compatibility, yes, but after a certain point, certain games become inaccessible on modern systems, and that is genuinely upsetting. I would love it if they took a more proactive stance on getting more of their games onto the Switch. I would love it if they went back to their structure of allowing people to just do digital downloads of certain games without tying them to subscription services. But unfortunately, that sort of thing just doesn't always happen. Again, it's part of the modern gaming industry. Companies want to move forward with new things. They don't always want to stick to their classic gaming libraries and work on finding the best ways to emulate them, or giving them HD remakes, or porting them forward. Sometimes it just isn't cost effective to do that sort of thing. And the thing that bugs me about that is that when people place the blame on Nintendo for game preservation, yes, they are really bad about it, but it's not always Nintendo's decision either. There's a lot of third-party involvement here from companies like Sega, Capcom, Konami, a lot of more smaller indie game developers that have their games on these eShops that they are in charge of bringing them forward to more modern gaming systems. And again, it comes down a lot to cost. It comes down to production. It comes down to if the game has a good enough reputation to warrant porting it forward. Game developers have to make money, and if there's not enough money in it, then that sucks, but what can you really do about it? But in the grand scheme of things, that's not really the only issue when it comes to preserving these games. There's another problem that I feel like not a lot of people are really considering, and that's the general structure of 3DS and Wii U games. Namely, the fact that both systems have games that revolve around using two different screens. With some games, it would be easy enough to convert them to a more Switch-friendly format. They did it with Mario 3D World and any other number of different Wii U ports. But when you look at the 3DS, it becomes a little more tricky, because a lot of those games are structured around the fact that they have two screens. It would, in general, require basically rebuilding a game to eliminate the need for that bottom screen, or somehow integrating the bottom screen into the main gameplay. It can be done, but I've seen it done in some situations, and it doesn't always result in the most intuitive or really convenient ways. Again, it really comes down to production. Is it worth completely restructuring a game to fit onto a system it wasn't really meant to be played for Nintendo to go through the trouble of re-releasing it and reworking it? Some things like Pokemon or Fire Emblem could be done easily enough. And the Switch does have a touchscreen, so even if you wanted to do just a straightforward port, you can make that work in some ways. It would look a little weird on a Switch screen, but it could function. The 3DS in general did have a much lighter emphasis on the dual screen format than the regular DS had. So converting some of these games to a playable state on the Switch, it's entirely within the realm of possibility. But then you have the Wii U and certain Wii U games, where the question isn't should these games be ported, or will these games be ported forward, but can they be ported forward? Obviously, there are a lot of Wii U ports onto the Switch at this point, showing that Nintendo is making efforts to move their games to a more popular system and give people options to play them. And there's certain games on the Wii U still that can get this treatment fairly easily. Games like the high-definition versions of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. While they do have Wii U gamepad functionality, they can be played without it. But then you have to consider games that actually took advantage of the dual screen format of the Wii U, the games that heavily implemented the gamepad into their gameplay. Games like Nintendo Land, Game & Wario, Star Fox Zero, these games all more or less need the gamepad to function. And if Nintendo wanted to bring them to the Switch, they would have to be heavily restructured in order to do that. It unfortunately creates a scenario where these games are more or less stuck on a dying system. Getting them to easily play on the Switch is not really within the realm of possibility, and that is really, really tragic. And then you have games like the original Super Mario Maker, or Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, or Smash for Wii U, that have follow-ups on the Switch already that are in many ways vastly superior to the Wii U games. The question in that case becomes, since the follow-up already exists on the Switch, will Nintendo even bother considering bringing those games forward? We may still see games like Yoshi's Woolly World and Paper Mario Color Splash come to the Switch in time, but some games may just be stuck on the Wii U. It is an unfortunate kind of tragicness that comes from the people who decided to make the Wii U what it is. It makes it difficult to bring these games to a more modern setting without completely reworking them. It's the same sort of scenario where you can't just pop a PlayStation 3 disc into your PlayStation 4 and just have it work. The PlayStation 3 has so much specific hardware in it that was made for that system that it makes bringing the games to PlayStation 4 that much more difficult. I know it doesn't seem like, from an outside perspective, that it would be that difficult, but it's more of a process than I think a lot of people really consider. And the Wii U probably has it worse than anyone, honestly. And then there's the fact that the 3DS and Wii U era is when Nintendo started to really embrace downloadable content. You may still be able to get a game physically, but any digital content for those games is going to become basically impossible to obtain. The DLC for Smash for Wii U and 3DS is a really good example, and the Fire Emblem games on 3DS also have a lot of digital content that was released for them, including literally an entire other story path for Fire Emblem Fates. While the Birthright and Conquest paths were both released on cartridge, the Revelation path never was. So that means when 3DS downloadable services go down, an entire third of a gaming experience is going to vanish. People will really like to get on different game companies' cases for doing HD collections and ports and things like that. They call it sort of lazy, they call it money grubbing, but a scenario like this is really where that sort of thing becomes so important. As games get older and game systems age out of use, it becomes that much more important for these games to be on newer systems. Nintendo absolutely should make Fire Emblem Fates HD. They absolutely should make a sort of collection game for older Smash Bros. Titles so people can play them on the Switch or a newer system past that. It really all comes down to the questions of will they? It comes down to the questions of can they? All of the parties involved with the productions of these games have to be on board with this sort of thing. It's not really that easy of a scenario, and we might lose important parts of gaming history in the meantime. It's more important now in situations like this to make our voices heard. We need to let Nintendo know that they need to make a stronger effort to preserve these games. Not necessarily in keeping the Wii U and 3DS eShops open indefinitely, but finding a way to get these games onto the Switch that people will actually be happy over. Whether it's HD collection games, just straight up digital downloads of the original titles, anything like that. And then it becomes our job to buy those things. Because if Nintendo doesn't think there's any money in this sort of thing, then they won't be doing it. Anyhow, if I'm not forgetting anything, I think that's my full thought process and opinion on the matter. What do you think Nintendo should be doing in this situation? What do you think the third parties involved should be doing in this situation? Should we get ports? Should we get HD remakes? Should we get lots of collection games? Let me know in the comments what you think, and I'd love to discuss it further with you. And if you want to hear more from me, be sure to hit the video with a like, be sure to subscribe to stay notified for more content. I do a lot of different things if this is your first time checking out my channel, so please go check out some of my other videos. Until next time, have a wonderful day. This is your good friend Sparky signing off for now. I'll catch you later.